Hey folks, Wandering Kid here. Welcome back to FurnaceClans. This will be the beginning of part 6, and it's been a while since you visited here. It's currently midsummer in 760, so about a year and a half has gone by. Mostly it was a bunch of fussing with a bunch of little things and doing some layouts and just generally getting the fort cleaned up again. That whole 9 dwarf thing does tend to take a beating on labor. One of the things we did was we dug out our little stockpile here for some blocks and mechanisms just to get them out of the way. What you'll be interested to know is I've got the magma forge and the magma smelter built out at this point. We've been producing a bit of steel, and mostly we've been melting down some of the random items we got off the caravans, and smelting some magnetite. Haven't done much with the forge yet. Hoping to get the rest of that stuff smelted down first. Upstairs, we've built a couple of things. Here in the clay, we've got our magma kiln ready to go. We've got a kiln here so that we can do a clay collection job. Same idea up here with the glass. We've got our magma glass furnace here, and a glass furnace for collect sand jobs here. So we have that available. Down where we were working earlier, we've deconstructed most of the stuff. The dwarven water reactor was taken apart. We took down almost all of the gearing and everything else. We're leaving the magma pit there. I could have selenized it, but it's just really not worth the effort considering we've got the fortifications in place and not too worried about things coming in. We broke down the old forge, floored up all the holes of the ground. Now, one of the things that's happening is I've still got a lot of flow up here inside the magma sea. So I hooked it up over to the southern sea. The reason for that is this sea is edged, so it's getting refilled at this level. As far as I can tell, this sea wasn't, so it was just constantly getting more and more flow as we worked with it. My FPS was starting to take a beating. It's not too bad yet. I mean, it's still at 72. But it's one of those things, I want to nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem. Here's something that's been driving me nuts. I cannot figure out what item is inaccessible that they have been trying to remove, and I tried hunting it down for about 4 months, and I have no idea what it is. It's probably something up on the surface, where more caravans have died and craploads of ambushes have died, and we're up to 197 enemies out there, along with a number of forgotten beasts at this point across Cavern 1 and 2. There's one of them that flies and has webs, and I may eventually go after trying to trap him, but we've already started another mega project. Now, over here, I've rebuilt the magma loader. I've tested it, and it works. Downstairs here, I have 2 floodgates, one for filling it, one for a drain, which leads over to here. This little area actually doesn't get enough magma to drain it all the way to that, but it all ends up as 1-1s across and then evaporates, but it's good enough. We have our roller assembly here. Here I have 2 impulse ramps, just so to see if that will take care of the magma loader problem. It should, so that this cart will get loaded with magma. I dry runned the system already. I haven't loaded it with magma. I was waiting to bring you guys in. So we're going to pull the lever so that we can fill it with magma. One of the things I've started doing is making sure I start noting my levers. It's going to start getting real complex real fast upstairs in the trap area. So we're going to be testing this area out. So I've mentioned this trap a couple of times, and I've started to set up the build for it. I'll give you a quick overview of what it's going to look like. I'll get into more detail when we actually start the dig out, but I have started the general setup. Here we have our cart loading area. We're going to need multiple carts because there's a bug where carts can end up disappearing in the lava while it's rolling. So I want to make sure that I can multi-load carts into the system, and I'm also going to want multiple carts in the system simultaneously. So I'm going to set up some gapping so that different carts will release at different points. What it does is they'll start here, they'll drop onto these ramps from hatches, they'll get a little bit of a push, pop down here, and run up this run. This is just simply a loader, which will drop down a couple of Z's to this. This will be our general loop for the minecart. What'll happen is they'll come in here, they'll enter the minecart run, they'll come here, they'll have to go upstairs, up, over, and down, and back down onto the opposite side of the loop to get to the main entrance that will try and lead into the fort that I'll have open. There's a bend here. This will be a hatched pit with a pressure plate here so that they can't actually enter. That plate will open a door over here to start the grinder up. This will be a maintenance hatchway with a pressure plate and pit here to make sure that my dwarves can't get into the system as different gear drops and unforbids, so that the eternal chase for socks doesn't start killing off my dwarves. This is basically a repeat of the system you see here. We're going to have a door in this section that will open when this is closed, and this hatch here will stop them from entering. That actually comes in at the top of the grinder. So what will happen is they'll come in, they'll go up, over, down. Anything that lives through this will trigger this. By closing off this passageway and opening the door on the other one, they'll repath back into the grinder, back over, and back up here, and try and path in here. I'll show you the rest of the details on the system as we dig it out. But this will be a lava pit in this corner, and in this corner, and there will be magma along the sides of both of these runs. Down here, I'm going to create a lever control room with a number of levers controlling different pieces of the system so that I can handle all the different pieces as needed. So, one of the other things we've done is I have started making steel. We're up to about 13 steel bars. I can start churning that into and out of goods, letting ITG, who's my armorer, well, he's my entire metal worker right now, build up his skills in armor crafting, and hopefully we can get ourselves some nice steel equipment, shirts, helms, things like that for our guys while we dig the rest of this out. Food and booze are doing all right still. We've still got plenty of food. I haven't created food in about 3 years. We did go through another run of creating some booze. Not too much though. I'd really like to get some rum going, or whatever the sweet pods make. So up here, I'm going to go turn that back on, unsuspend that. We'll get our brewer involved. The stockpile systems up here are working really nicely for speeding up the plant gathering process with my limited resources. So that's helping out tremendously. Our next bit here is we're going to let somebody pull the lever. Is somebody pulling the lever? Yes, okay. Our boosmith, Andrew Khan, is going to pull our lever. Where is he? He's coming. This is cavern 1. We'll go down through here, the cavern 2 bypass. Drops all the way down. Past 3, and there we go. Now, for our construct, yeah, there we go. So he's pulled the lever, that releases the floodgate. That will fill this. I'm going to let that fully fill, and while that fills up, I'll show you how we set this up. Again, one-wheel dwarven water reactor. Same idea. It's an overhead drive shaft that drops straight down to our gear control for the rollers. I found out that no, you cannot even put an axle over a grate, so this gives us access to the system and allows us to bypass any significant issues, and it only costs an extra 10 power with the extra 2 gears, so it's definitely worth it for convenience. Okay, we filled up. We're going to go into our test. We're going to set it to push west always. And we should have somebody coming down to push that here shortly. When they're getting down here, I'll bring it back in. So our cart pusher has arrived. He pushes our cart, and it kicks out. And we have magma. So the problem earlier was I just had the roller pushing too far in. One or two impulse ramps just to make sure it gets the magma in it, then it can hit the roller and get pushed out, no problem. That's the highest speed roller, so it kicks out on time. We've got a minecart here loaded with some magma that we don't need. This is going to be the beginnings of our magma system to bring magma upstairs. I'm going to want to dig out the entire trap system before I set up the impulse elevators, so I know where I want to load my magma from. Just in case anything gets a little awkward in the construction, I want all of that construction done so that I don't step on it with the loader system. So we're going to go start that here shortly, and I will bring you in once we get to that point. See you shortly. So in part 5, some folks had some comments that they were curious about how I was going to deal with the undead, and I figured I'd walk you through the trap system here briefly. I know I went over it a little bit earlier, but a diagram never hurts a little bit. This is basically a roundabout. Think that this thing just goes in a big circle at first. It's going to go counterclockwise, and if you'll notice, we're on its round path. So as it goes in the donut, it'll drop down into the pits in the northeast corner and the southwest corner, which will be a 2Z pit. They'll be lined with impulse ramps along the edges of the route, which will hopefully knock undead off the side into lava, or push them down into the corner pits. In those corner pits, I will have rollers. I'll have rollers down in the magma, and one level up, I'll have another roller, so it'll pop up a Z, go on a roller, pop up a Z. It'll go into what's called the retracking curves. What happens is when you roller a cart at high speeds up a sideways corner ramp, it actually leaves at an angle, but it's not obvious that it's skidding. What happens is when it hits a turn, it stops skidding. So those are just going to be simple Z patterns to reroute the cart. In the bottom right will be the primary exit. So when they come in from the upper left, which is the stairway through the aquifer, they'll have to walk all the way down to the south on the left side, cut across in the middle to the top of the right, and then cut down again. This should catch most of the initial thieves trying to enter. Anything that makes it through down to the primary exit, they'll be stopped. And I'll show you that system later. If they get stopped, they'll repath. They're going to walk back through the entire chain of things, back up to the northwest into the grinder reverse. And theoretically, they'll just keep going back and forth. That's the basic process for this grinder. We're just going to keep knocking things into lava until it stays dead. So with that little explanation in mind, you can see that this is going to be a pretty heavy-duty endeavor for only 9 dwarves to fully clear out. I do have 3 spare picks. So, first step, we're going to bring a couple of more miners online. I don't want to grab my woodcutter, and there's a couple of people I also don't want to grab. ITG is going to be busy trying to make steel armor, so we can easily deal with the thieves that make it in. So he's not going to be part of this endeavor. Actually, we're even going to get him off stone hauling, so that he concentrates more on getting better at creating armor. We're going to elect Woob Monkey. Our mason will be pretty busy once we start doing digs, but actually we can use him for now. We'll turn him off later. Vukar is one of our farmers. We're in the middle of summer. Summer and autumn are the primary seasons for pigtails and cape wheat, both of which I'm looking for right now, so I'm not real interested in taking any of my farmers off duty. But that looks like it may be necessary. Sarvesh won't be needing to do much for a while. And Mayfole, my carpenter, he's going to be bored for a long time. So, we've elected up a couple more miners, 4 of them to be exact. So we're going to commit that. Now, we're going to light up the dig patterns. And the first area of dig is here to lead to our minecart loader. The next area of dig is off of these 2 branches. And we're going to open up our lever room as well. This should start people digging out the primary structure. And once they get the majority of layer 1 done, I'll bring you back